Another thing to add about Better Call Saul right now is there's the theme song, the and I feel like with the breaking, how the whole Breaking Bad stuff with the memes and YouTube Shorts, well, I've got this thing where I've seen a tons of memes about like Saul's face like zoomed in like that. I'll see if I can. I'll show it to you right now. Right, I will show you this. I've got it right here, so I won't take too much time to show you. So that's the face of Saul Goodman in the memes that I've been seeing, and there's like this bass boosted thing. Bass boosted, as we've talked about that like a while ago on the James Allen show. The bass boosted was like the bass is so boosted. So I'll show you that as well. But whenever I come to think of the theme now, that's just like burned into my memory, and that's what memes and like short form content is doing to us now. Like when we see something in short form content, it's like, oh, it's so cool when we see it on something else, stuff like that. Just the consumer generation at this point, right? So I'm gonna show you it. I won't mess around too much though. Stupid ads on YouTube as well. Hold on. Yeah, I think I've said this before on the podcast, but I tried to one of the times when I tried to like play a video to show you an example of what I was talking about. There was like tons of ads just playing, and I've said that before that I just hate it when ads play on YouTube because I'm trying to show you a video here, but there's too many ads on YouTube. So this is what it sounds like.
You are about to experience the James Rambling Show, hosted by James Bay.
Hello, welcome back to the James Rambling Show for yet another episode. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about how I've started Better Call Saul, a bit about in the Indiana Jones movies and the One Piece live action remake show trailer that came out recently. But before I get into that, I'm just going to say that I put out 2 reviews. I've not done them in a while. A big Breaking Bad deep dive that goes on for 30 minutes, talking about also El Camino. Also, on top of that, I did an Extraction 2 review, which is more simple and straight to the point. So there's that. So Better Call Saul, I've been watching it. I kind of stopped watching it for a bit to record this episode, and I'm going to sort of try and watch it every few days now because I've kind of been binging the show. So for those who don't know what Better Call Saul is, it's the prequel to Breaking Bad, where instead of we're following the titular character Walter White, it is now Jimmy McGill, who is Saul Goodman's persona before Breaking Bad, and before that it was Jimmy McGill before that. So there's that, and it's about 6 seasons, but I'm only on season 1 right now, and I've got to say that I am enjoying it. Some of the characters that you might find in this series is characters like Nacho, Saul Good, Jimmy McGill's character brother Chuck, who's kind of not, he's obsessed with not going outside, and there's like an episode where when he goes outside he freaks out and he has all this like foil on his body and all of that. So there's all of that, and so that's some of the characters. There's also some other characters like Hannon and all of these. Hamlin, I think, actually his name's Hamlin, not Hannon, right? He's a law firm dude. So you get that, and that's what the show is about, and I am enjoying it. I don't think it compares to Breaking Bad just yet. It's only 6 episodes here, and it got interesting in the first 2 episodes because there's this whole thing with how Saul got these scooters to the scooter guys of it, or the skateboarders. Sorry, the skateboarder guys, where they're riding these skateboards and they do this bet where they have $2,000 or whatever to get hit by this car, and the lady or the person cannot move, but it's like a hit and run, so they end up going to that lady's house. But what I didn't expect to see was the fact that Tuco from Breaking Bad was gonna be at the other side of the door. Turns out in the next episode, he was the grandson of this lady, and the skateboarder guys call his granny a biz snatch, and it was hilarious. And it's just it's just your typical quintessential Tuco energy right there. There's that, and I do like Chuck's character. He's quite an interesting character, but it still just feels a bit like a comedy Nachos character. He's an interesting character because now it got a bit spicy with him and Saul in those few episodes. Another thing to add about Better Call Saul right now is there's the theme song, the and I feel like with the breaking, how the whole Breaking Bad stuff with the memes and YouTube Shorts, well, I've got this thing where I've seen a tons of memes about like Saul's face like zoomed in like that. I'll see if I'll show it to you right now, right? I will show you this. I've got it right here, so I won't take too much time to show you. So that's the face of Saul Goodman in the memes that I've been seeing, and there's like this bass boosted thing. Bass boosted, as we've talked about that like a while ago on the James Allen show. The bass boosted meme was like, like the bass is so boosted. So I'll show you that as well. But whenever I come to think of the theme now, that's just like burned into my memory, and that's what memes and like short form content is doing to us now. Like when we see something in short form content, it's like, oh, it's so cool when we see it on something else, stuff like that. Just the consumer generation at this point, right? So I'm gonna show you it. I won't mess around too much though. Stupid ads on YouTube as well. Hold on. Yeah, I think I've said this before on the podcast, but I tried to one of the times when I tried to like play a video to show you an example of what I was talking about. There was like tons of ads just playing, and I've said that before that I just hate it when ads play on YouTube because I'm trying to show you a video here, but there's too many ads on YouTube. So this is what it sounds like. Yeah, it's really weird, but I mean, there's a lot of memeable things about this Breaking Bad universe. So so far, so far with Better Call Saul, it's not as good as Breaking Bad just yet, but I'm only in the early stages, like I've said a few times here. So I will give it more of a watch. Also, Mike is in it as well. Mike from Breaking Bad is in it. He's starting to make more of an appearance, and there's this whole meme with him being called the kid named Finger because Jimmy McGill only laid a finger on him. So there's all of that stuff, right? I'm sort of going on and on about Better Call Saul, but I do recommend it. And maybe one day when we finish Better Call Saul, I'll rewatch Breaking Bad because I've heard that once you watch Better Call Saul first and then Breaking Bad, it plays differently because you're seeing the events that happened before Breaking Bad and then after Breaking Bad. Like I know I talked about the Salamancas and how Gus got revenge on them, but apparently in Better Call Saul, there's this whole plot where you kind of see this that like Gus's history with the Salamancas. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of whole thing ramps up and stuff like that. So you've got all of that stuff right where I'm starting to watch more of Better Call Saul and getting into that series. I would have gotten into Better Call Saul earlier, but there's just been too much content to keep up with at this stage that trying to come back to other shows was a bit hard. And I did say that I was going to talk about the Indiana Jones franchise, but I just remembered that there was something that happened recently. This is very topical, I think, and it happened recently. It's to do with a TV show, and I've had my complaints about the MCU, and I liked Guardians 3, but it dawned upon me that there was this show called Secret Invasion that came out recently, and literally the intro for the series is made by AI. The intro is made by AI. So there you go, right? And it's been like controversial as well, and I don't blame it for being controversial because AI kind of destroys creativity and amps up laziness where we're just making computers do it for me. I did a chat GPT episode, but we did that for fun. But the future of AI will be interesting to see that. But it was like this whole thing, this whole AI art intro. It just looked really weird as well. So I'm gonna show it to you right now. Oh man, I almost forgot about this, right? So AI art Secret Invasion. I believe it was. And I've heard Secret Invasion is actually horrible as well, but I don't know if I'm going to review it or not. So I'll just show you here. This is what it looks like. So the directors kind of defended it because of how it's all what the whole universe is like, all these aliens and stuff like that. But even then, the AI argument is kind of an interesting one because there's people who defend AI and say, "Oh, the future is now," and there's people who are like, "Oh, by the way, AI is bad and creativity should be up against AI or like that." And there was the writer's strike, and I don't think I really talked about this, but and with the writer's strike, this is kind of outdated because I think the writer's strike started like 2 months ago. But with that whole thing, the writers didn't like the fact that they weren't getting paid enough, and they hated AI. So somehow we've kind of went back to AI on the James Ramon show this week, but because Secret Invasion had that whole thing, that's how it happened. Maybe I will review that, but outside of that, right, so let's get into Indiana Jones, That just came to mind, okay? Sorry, man. It's the James Ramon show, man. It's just how it is. So Indiana Jones, right? If you know the James Ramon show, I've talked about a handful amount that I'm not sure about Indiana Jones 5. Harrison Ford is too old. It sounds like a Back to the Future parody versus an Indiana Jones film. And so Indiana Jones, the first movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Second movie, the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade are the trilogy. And then there's also the Crystal Skull. Like, I've heard people saying it's the perfect trilogy, and I've got to say that Indiana Jones as a franchise holds up well. The practical effects and all of that stuff is amazing. I feel like it's like a perfect way to do a movie. Like, Indiana Jones is this guy who's a professional, like, guy who has all this education. He's really handsome, and he's really skilled, and he can do all these stunts. All the ladies want him. He's everything a man wants to be. He just wants to ghetto, and then he just wants to collect all these relics, and he wants to globetrot and be the hero at the end of the day. It's just a classic hero's tale, and I feel like it's just one of those classic movies you can watch over and over and over and over again. And personally, I remember a time when I played the heck out of the Indiana Jones Lego games, and they were just very fun. And I'm just it's pretty much you're just pretty much playing the films, but in Lego version. So do like, and any time I would watch these movies when I was renting them on YouTube, like in the past day or so, I was like, oh, I remember that from the Lego games, because I have played the Lego games a heck ton, and I have watched the Indiana Jones movies a heck ton as well. But so I've really enjoyed those movies, and I've really enjoyed those games. So it'll be interesting to see how Indiana Jones 5 is, and I feel like because I've watched these films now, I can confidently say that my mind has changed on Indiana Jones 5, where I'm not as mad as I was because I've got this hype surrounding me because of how I've watched these films, and I'm probably going to feel the nostalgia. I hope it's like this thing of like, remember how I reviewed Jurassic World Dominion and it played on the nostalgia, there was older characters and stuff. I hope it's like that where it's just kind of a fun thing, but it's not perfect. Because the last thing I want is a horrible movie like that, Because I don't I just want to have a fair review, because some of my reviews are just they were very biased in the past, and I was just rambling and repeating points. So hopefully with the Indiana Jones review, I might do that. Before we dive into the One Piece, before we dive into the One Piece stuff, the live action remake, this just also just came to mind that I might actually be seeing the new Spiderverse movie. So if you know back in the day, the James Ramon show, we talked about how I loved Spider-Man No Way Home and stuff like that. But I watched this Into the Spider-Verse like a year ago. I'm probably gonna rewatch it, and I've heard very good things about Across the Spider-Verse. And I've heard like there's very good animation. It's very well done, and there's like this cliffhanger where it feels a bit annoying. People have said, so it'll be interesting to see, and I might review that. And it came out in the back. It came out at the start of June, which was a few weeks ago, but I'm not going to be late to the party because I think it's quite a popular movie, and it was $100 million budget, and it's made so much money already, like 300 million. I'm going to double check actually. So here we go. Right, I'm going to just double check this. Do, 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 do. Right, so we'll go across the Spider Verse. I'll go to the Wikipedia page real quick. Right. Oh, it's made actually. It says here the box office is 506.9 million. That's a lot of money right there, and it's an $100 million budget film, and that's like a lower budget than Indiana Jones 5 because reportedly that was like 300 million or something. So it's going to show that you don't really need these $300 million budget animation films, and I think that's good. And there's going to be another Spider Verse movie to close out this whole trilogy. So I will rewatch Into the Spider Verse, but I'm just teasing that right now that I might be doing a Spider Verse review. It'll get me at the house, not been to in the cinemas in a while. So now let's dive into the One Piece live action remake trailer. So again, if you remember the James Allen show, right, we talked about how I've started talking about this year, especially about how there's all these Disney live action remakes and all this stuff, and they want to milk the heck out of these IPs and these famous things, famous animated movies, whatnot. Well, the same thing happens with anime, where there's tons and tons of live action remakes. There's like an Attack on Titan one. So there was all these other live action remakes, and there's ones that Japan's even made some of them. I've even watched one of the Jojo Bizarre Adventure live action remakes that I've never really shared before. So I will be sharing that story. I'll be sharing that story right after my thoughts on this. So I'll get into it. So the live action remake of One Piece, right? How do I feel about this? So the trailer itself looks kind of okay. There's like this fun, happy energy, but the thing is with this, right? One Piece is over the top and goofy, so trying to translate it into live action is going to be a bit hard. But it doesn't look bad, and some of the characters look okay. Like Zoro kind of looks cool. There's fun to be had, but in my opinion, right, One Piece is over 1,000 episodes. There's thousands of chapters. So I think for newcomers, maybe this could be the starting point where they want to get into the live action remake instead of the anime. And I know what you're thinking, James. Why are you saying the live action remake instead of the anime? Well, there's less episodes there. You'll be able to have fun with it at least. You know what I mean? But it kind of will change, like if that gets people invested into the whole thing, that'll be nice. But if it is just another mediocre live action remake, then there's that. But I did mention this story, right? So I've never told this before on the podcast, and most of this episode has felt a bit homogenized, and we've been talking about like the same things recently. But so this one time back in 2020, I want to say I went on this like adult website and I searched up the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure live action remake, and I got curious, right? And I watched it, and it was one of the weirdest, if not the weirdest live action remake ever. It was weird CGI, it was really awkward. And JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is one of these kind of animes that, yeah, it's so over the top and it's so goofy, and it's got all these weird, strange concepts that once you put it into live action, it just doesn't feel the same anymore. So that was really weird, and I watched it on Pornhub, I guess you could say. But that was before the time when, like, there was a time when that website you had unverified users being able to upload stuff, but now it's all verified. This was like 3 years ago, so this is a poorly aged things part 29.7655. So you've got all that stuff. So there's the One Piece live action remake. I don't know if there's any other live action remakes for anime, but I know there's going to be more Disney live action remakes, and I did try watch the Little Mermaid live action remake, and we all know how that went. I watched 45 minutes and actually gave up, so I didn't review it at all. It would have been kind of unfair if I just reviewed 45 minutes of a 2.5 hour movie, though, so yeah, there's that. But so there's all that stuff, right? We've talked about quite a few things on the podcast today, and it has kind of felt a bit recycled, but we're starting to, it just kind of happens. Sometimes when we're in a podcast, there's only so much to say. So you get all that, you get all those topics, but I do want to mention that I am thinking about doing maybe an episode or two on conspiracy theories. I've not really teased this before. We did a whole history thing a few weeks ago, and we did all that. We did Russian history, we did classical history, we did like where the Vikings and whatnot. But I just wanted to mix it up again because it's an interesting topic. We've talked about odd things before, so the conspiracy theories, they won't be like my conspiracy theories, like the well-known ones. Maybe like the flat earthers, maybe like the moon landing. But I won't get too controversial. I'll just have a bit of fun with it. So I've got all of this stuff in the works. I've got the Spiderverse stuff. I've got the Indiana Jones. I'll be doing a Mission Impossible 7 Part 1 review. I'll be watching more Better Call Saul. We'll do the Indiana Jones 5 review. I told you that story about the Jojo's Bizarre Adventure live action remake. So, other than that, and also the Secret Invasion thing, and AI, we got a bit in the AI there for a bit. Other than that, I don't really know what else to talk about. So, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned for more episodes of the James Ramblin' Show. We're like halfway through to like 80 episodes, so we're getting closer and closer to episode 100 here. So I'll see you next week. Bye for now. Same old stuff as per usual. So yeah, I'm gonna turn it off now and upload this in a couple hours or an hour's time as I'm recording this. Bye. Bye 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 bye. Stay tuned for another episode of the James Ramblin' Show. Bye 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 bye. Bye 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 bye.